It's Rocco is throwing passes right now that like he's not just throwing them, he's throwing some passes that he would throw as a freshman or even as a sophomore. And they, if they worked, they would look really awesome. But sometimes it was Rocco being a little over aggressive or trying to fit too many tight windows. Rocco now is throwing those balls, knowing for a fact that he is going to hit that receiver directly in the chest or in the face mask, directly in the catching spot. And I think Duke says, I would say Rocco's probably the best overall thrower of the football we've ever seen at ISU. Man, I mean, there was a long time I was willing to die on the hill of Jacob Park, who had the most arm talent of anybody ever at Iowa State. And it was maybe not particularly close. Boy, at this point, what Rocco is doing goes beyond just having really good arm talent, which it's very clear Rocco's got a really strong arm, throws a great deep ball. Anything like over 20 yards, Rocco is like, I'd have to see some stats, but I'd have to imagine that Rocco is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in college football beyond 20 yards. And he fits some incredibly tight throws in short ranges that other guys just can't because they don't have the kind of arm that Rocco has. And Rocco is only halfway through his junior season right now. And he's making it really difficult he's making it incredibly difficult to not start talking about whether he or Brock is the best quarterback in school history. That's how good Rocco has been. And I think, if Rocco keeps winning and wins 10 games again, and obviously goes to another Big 12 title game and maybe wins it, if Rocco wins a Big 12 title this year, I'm not you're probably going to have to make the case for Brock over Rocco, like versus the other way around. Like you're not going to have to argue that Rocco, you'd make the argument for Rocco. You would have to make the argument for Brock over Rocco at that point. Now, it's not to diminish Brock, but Rocco, when he's in the game, Rocco has this different level of control on the field that we just haven't seen from an Iowa State quarterback, where he's just out there. This is going to sound a little hyperbolic, but I think this is a great way to describe it. That Rocco started his career as a game manager, as a guy you would send out there. He's not going to mess up. He's not necessarily going to win you a game, but he's not going to mess up. And over the last season, where we saw him mess up a little bit, but we saw him all those fourth quarter comebacks and stuff like that. Now we're seeing third year Rocco, who has evolved from game manager to puppet master, to where he is out there and you can watch him pre-snap. He's not just identifying coverage. He's moving guys around. He's adjusting his protections. I'm sure he's changing plays once in a while. He's in complete and total command and control of everything that's happening on the field when he's out there. He's moving guys around he's constantly moving guys around to see what the defense is doing and sometimes to move guys out of the way on defense. He's really controlling what's happening out there. And it's remarkable to watch him play quarterback, because when he is out there, nothing feels rushed. Nothing feels chaotic. He makes some good plays, he's scrambling out of the pocket, does some things, but like even the plays where he has to step up and maybe tuck it down and scramble, he looks so calm and composed when he's doing these things. And it's just go back and watch, especially like the Arizona game where he missed out on his, extending his streak of passing touchdowns. But man, he was in control of that whole thing. 15 to 22. He did throw the one pick, but that was late. That was late in garbage time, and he was just trying to find a pass to extend his streak. So he has 2 picks this year. One was in garbage time where he was just trying to get a stat streak basically, and then the first one was 0% his fault. Hitting Ben Bramer directly in the hands basically. So you know, Rocco has 0 picks on the season that anybody gives a shit about. And the whole while it's, he's on a career high completion percentage right now, even with all the drops that he's had to deal with. Had he not been dealing with all those drops, you know, in the first part of the season, from Dom Overby dropping a few, Brett Eskelson dropped one, that Ben Bramer dropped the one, you know, without those drops early in the season, Rocco could be pushing or over 70% completions right now, which is that's a really big number. And he just makes this whole thing go. And when he's on the field, it's very clear who's in charge. And it never feels as though Iowa State is really floundering. Like it feels like there's like, even if they have to punt, they go 3 and out, they have to punt because something gets blown up or whatever it is. It's not because Rocco looks lost or things feel out of control. It's maybe, a play call wasn't synced up right with what was going on in the game, or maybe, someone in protection missed an assignment, whatever, and someone gets pushed out of the pocket. Maybe a running back doesn't see a hole. But it's not because Rocco is panicking. It's not because he's being rushed. He's at the point in the career now where, teams bring pressure, but it doesn't speed Rocco up. It helps him. He's getting so good at processing a blitz, picking up blitzes and understanding rushers that it doesn't speed him up in a way that feels panicky anymore. It speeds him up in that it speeds up his internal clock a little bit. He knows he either has to make a decision to get rid of the ball or to tuck and run, but he's not panicking. He's not, he's not turning into Captain Chaos when he doesn't need to be. Everything when he's on the field is just cool, calm, and collected. And that is such a valuable trait to have in your quarterback. And I know if the next time Iowa State, where it actually comes down to, needing a big drive in the fourth quarter to win a game, there's not a quarterback in college football right now that you would take over Rocco Becht. And frankly, he's been so good this season that it's a shame that he's not getting more early Heisman talk than he is. And it's only because he's playing for, what is perceived as a smaller school and, or like a smaller brand football program, and specifically a program that, a lot of like the people that think they're like being edgy or whatever say that Iowa State's, a fraud or they're overrated because Kansas State is bad and Iowa's kind of mediocre. That they aren't 5-0, basically, they aren't 5-0 in the top 15, that, they're not actually a good program because Kansas State's bad. So Iowa State can't be good. But anybody that's watching these games know that right now there might not be a quarterback in college football playing better this season so far than Rocco Becht. There's a few that are probably in the conversation, like that Jade Mayava from USC's played really well. There's a few of Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt, the kid from Georgia Tech. There's a few of them that are like also playing well. But as far as just guys that are they're clearly a step above anybody that they're going up against. Rocco's right there. You could argue, if they gave out a Davey O'Brien award today, they'd have to consider Rocco. There's no way you couldn't. You couldn't have a complete conversation about the best quarterback in college football right now without talking about Rocco Becht. And it's unfortunate that he's not going to get more Heisman hype because just the team he plays for. And I can tell you right now, Rocco probably doesn't give two shits about that. But maybe someday, maybe if Iowa State can continue to win, maybe they win a Big 12 title and Rocco shows out, throughout the play, continues playing well, and then, has a really nice Big 12 title game. Maybe he finally gets the credit he deserves. But, right now, if you're talking about a mid-season Heisman list, I think you absolutely have to give serious consideration to Rocco because he's just been that good.